Time to check in on what's going on in the Great Flinders Netball Association, and I'm joined by our Great Flinders correspondent, Elizabeth Burns. Elizabeth, thank you for joining me. It was an exciting weekend in the netball, wasn't it?
It was a very exciting and unpredicted weekend, I must say.
It was. So let's get straight into one of the two upsets, and we'll start off with Lock taking down Tumby Bay, because that, for me, looked like the match of the round. Top of the table clash, and Tumby suffering their first defeat of the season by 5 goals, 33-28 at Lock.
Absolutely. It was. I actually had to double check that score when I saw it come through. Lock sort of came into that game missing Millie Morton, who's their president and such a strong player through the mid-court, and she had an Achilles injury and so wasn't playing. But they had Whitney Wright, Courtney Hull and Lisa Burrows back in from who were all missing from the previous week. So they really started with a full side and barely made any changes for the game. They've got some really strong combinations and seem to be working well. So they started that game with a lot of confidence. And Tumby came in undefeated, but they had a major out in their goalie, Ilka Stone. And so Alex Stratford and then Chelsea Franks had pretty big shoes to fill, actually, to step in the ring for her. And they brought on young Sadie Curtis as well for a quarter, but I think a few depleted numbers during the season, and then a really key out in their main goalie, and that sort of made a real impact on the Tumby girls. So Lock sort of rolled out with a really strong start and put pressure right down the court. And I gather, talking to a few people, that Lock really capitalised on any turnovers, and that their goalies, their accuracy and movement was just awesome. They were up by, I think, 9 at half time. Tumby had a real comeback in the third quarter to only be down by 7. But, Lock just kept them to 5 scoring shots in the last, and they took the game 33-28.
Hopefully we get to see them play off against each other in a final and maybe even a grand final, and hopefully they'll be at full strength for that matchup, because I'm sure it will be an absolute cracker. Ayr United taking down Elliston Districts 37-17, and no one saw this one coming. 3rd versus 6th going in.
Exactly, 2nd and 6th, and very well umpired by Charmaine Croft and Sharon Feltus. Ayr United were missing one of their key defenders in Tammy Lucinas, so that really sort of added to the idea in our minds, I guess, that Elliston would be the stronger team on the day. But they were missing. Elliston were missing Rani Tomney, Renee Romanowicz and Emma Willis, and those goalies in particular, their height and their accuracy was a big out for the Elliston girls. They did bring a young 15-year-old in Ruby Baker up into goals, and she had a really cracking go at that sort of top level in her club. I think both teams started really well and really worked hard for possession. Elliston was up by 1 at quarter time, so it really was a tight tussle from that first whistle. They kept Elliston to only 2 goals in that second quarter, and they shot 11. So Elliston made quite a few changes at half time to sort of combat that Saints' strength down the court. But Ayr United, just kept up their shooting pressure. They shot 14 to Elliston's 6 in the third quarter. And I think that's probably what just tipped the game out of reach for the Elliston girls.
Yeah, one of the upsets of the season there, no doubt, and Elliston will be spewing that they let that one slip and they've dropped out of the top 2, but they're still firmly in finals contention. And one more game played over the weekend, Cummins Kapini with a 22-goal win over United Yolana, 55-33.
Yes, this probably was more along the line of being what we predicted. Cougars have really sort of hit their straps at this end of the season. They came off a really strong win over Ayr United the previous week. They had their little pocket rocket in Billy Thompson back on the court. And they had BJ Moroney, who stepped up from the lower grade into goalkeeper, and her height and rebounding really makes a difference. I think the Yolana girls were missing Hallie Paul, who's a lovely young shooter and has a huge amount of potential sort of as her experience grows in A grade. Cougars got off to a really good start. Their goalies can shoot some freakish, particularly long bombs. Their accuracy is really, really something to behold, and they've got a lot of speed through that mid court. Their coaching, Jet Green, who's their coach, who's their playing coach, she came off injured in the third quarter, but those girls had sort of got the momentum and just sort of kept that momentum throughout the game. So, yeah, took that game out quite comfortably. Yes, and in the weather, I think they're pretty pleased to get that game out the way.
Absolutely. It was a bit of a cold weekend, bit of a wet
It was
weekend.
a cold weekend,
Yes.
absolutely.
But
Very wet weekend.
The show must go on. It's a winter sport and it's rolling on again this weekend. So we'll just quickly race through and get some tips from you. Ayr United will be on the bye. They are well-deserved bye after that great win in round 13. And the Ramblers are coming off the bye, playing against Cummins Kapini.
Yes, this is the Cummins showdown, Cougars and Ramblers. Ramblers are currently fourth on the ladder and they're only one win above Cougars. But a win could move Cougars up to equal fourth. And then out at Karku, we've got United, Yalana and Tumby Bay. So I think even with a depleted side and coming off a loss, I think Tumby will probably be hard to beat. And then our final game, which I think will be the match of the day, is Elliston versus Lock at Minipus. So, that'll be a very interesting game. Elliston have 3 more matches to play, but Lock only have 2. So potentially there's going to be some fairly interesting jostling for position on the ladder. So these last few games are always where the fun and games are, and I'm sure we'll all be watching carefully to see who comes out with the win after the game. So wait and see.
I'm sure we'll be watching eagerly. It should be a great round and definitely looking forward to seeing who wins that Elliston and Lock showdown. That's going to be a great game. We'll leave it there for now, Elizabeth. Thank you very much for coming on to chat. Enjoy the netball this weekend. Looking forward to chatting next week.
Sounds great to me. Thanks, Dan.
Turning straight over to the Eastern Eyre Netball Association now, and on the line with me is Kristy Turnbull, our Eastern Eyre Netball correspondent. How are you, Kristy?
I'm very well this morning, Dan. How are you?
Yes, very well as well. Thank you very much. Did you get out to any of the netball on the weekend?
Yes, I headed up to Warramboo last weekend for the Warramboo Ports, Central United Ports game. So in a very cold, wet day it was up there.
Yes, I bet it was cold and wet everywhere, I think. So we'll get started with that game. And it was a cold and wet game, and it was also a bit of a blowout, 63-23 in favour of Central Eyre United.
Yeah, definitely a big blowout, and probably fairly disappointing for the Ports girls, but very, very exciting for the Storm girls last Saturday. Storm absolutely came out firing. They had a point to prove, I think, after their loss to Rangers the week before, even though it was a close game. And their intensity from the very first whistle really caught the Ports girls by surprise, and Ports just couldn't match it. The first half is probably where the most damage was done. They played beautiful netball, those Storm girls. They are a great team, and they seem to play really well together and got a nice early jump on Ports. After half-time, Ports stemmed their flow a little bit, and they put up a really courageous fight. But, yeah, Storm just far, far too strong. They'll be really happy with that percentage boost. I think it'll sneak them into top spot on the ladder coming into this week. So they'll be feeling pretty confident there. And, like I said, Ports will be feeling fairly disappointed knowing that I think the last time they played was closer to a 20-goal margin. So they've got a bit to work on, the Ports girls. But congratulations to Storm. Really good game.
All right, a big win for the Storm, and they were playing in a bit of a storm by the sounds of things, so it must have been a good omen for them.
Yeah, I think it was. It was definitely not the nicest. It's a winter sport, but definitely not the best conditions to be playing netball in.
That's it. Even if it is a winter sport, no one really wants to be playing in the pouring rain, but you've just got to grin and bear it sometimes. Would have been easier for the Storm girls than the Ports girls, no doubt.
Yes, I think so.
And we had just the one other game, of course, on the weekend, and it was the Rangers getting another win. They beat Cowell by 17 goals, 55-38.
Yeah, Rangers would have come into this game extremely confident after their win the week before against Storm. They started confident, they played confident all game. They're really gelling well together as a team. I said at the start of the year that they weren't a team to be underestimated. They had some big changes this year, and they've got some young girls that have stepped up into that A-grade team, and they've just finally started to come together where it's really important at this end of the season. Cow put up a strong fight. They contested the game mainly through the middle, but the Rangers' first and last quarter were just too strong for the Cowgirls, with Rangers getting that 17-goal win. So Rangers are strong contenders now if they keep playing this sort of netball to take that second spot on the ladder. I think the next, 4 games left of before we hit our final series, and I think they're really going to be interesting in those top 3 positions. Anything could happen.
That's it, 4 rounds left. The season has flown by and we're getting into round 12 this weekend, and we've got a couple of exciting games on. We'll start with the slightly less exciting game, which is the Rangers going for another win against Ports.
Yeah, so Ports will travel out to Rudau to come up for their last appearance against Rangers, most likely for this season. Rangers are coming unchanged again from last week, and they'll be feeling really confident after the last 2 wins that they've had leading into this game. Ports are unfortunately without Letitia Masters and Abby Harris, and that's going to leave Ports a fairly big gap in their defence end and across the centre court. It's going to be hard to fill that gap for the Ports girls. Rangers, it was only a 12-goal margin Rangers' way last time. But yeah, like I said, that they're playing a really strong, really good netball and really playing well as a team. And I think that's probably going to be a little bit too strong for Ports again. Ports will put up a good fight and they won't want it to blow out too much. But yeah, like I said, crucial time of the season, Rangers will be looking for the points and for the percentage and vie for that second spot on the ladder.
And our other game going on this weekend, it's a top-of-the-table clash, and whoever wins is a very, very good shot to finish the end of the season on top of the ladder, barring some sort of unexpected result in there. So that is, of course, Kimber Districts. They're hosting Central Eyre United.
Yeah, yep. So there's no doubt that this is going to be the game of probably the season, but definitely the game of this last round. Like you said, battle of the top 2 spots. They've both had a win each the last 2 times they've met, so it actually could go either way. Storm are going to come in off that solid win, that 40-goal win last week. They're going to be full of confidence, and if they come out and get a jump like they did last week, they're certainly going to take it right up to Kimber. Kimber have only played 1 game in the last 3 weeks, but so they're well rested. They're feeling fit. They've got their full team as well coming in, and they're ready to go. And I think it'll be a really good clash. It'll be a great game for spectators, and it'll be played with the highest intensity I think that we can see in a minor round game.
It was Kimber by 18 in round 2, Central Eyre United by 11 in round 7. So no doubt this will be a cracker. We don't know who's going to win. There's definitely not a clear-cut favourite, but it's going to be a great game and very much looking forward to seeing who takes top spot on the ladder. We'll leave it there for this week. Kristy, thank you very much, and looking forward to chatting again next week. Enjoy the netball this weekend, and like I said, looking forward to seeing who's sitting on top next week.
Perfect. Thanks, Sam. We'll talk next week.